Okay, now we are going to check a different exam. This is an exam for an A2 plus level, period 3. So most likely this will be the last exam a high school student in second year will do. Let's look at the first part where we are addressing the receptive skills. First, we have the listening section. Again, we provide directions. We give an example of the expected task. And we have the questions. In this case, they are true or false. If we check for the reading part, again, you see the reading is longer and it's segmented into different parts and different vocabulary and more complex grammar structures. And then students have to answer questions in a written form in this case. So we have the receptive skills, as you can see, again correlated to the syllabus, and we are checking if the student can understand spoken and written input. But then let's go and check a little bit more about the language use section. If you see, what we are doing here is, again, we are providing with some exercises. We have to give an example and students have to circle the correct option, as in this case we are evaluating future tenses. And in part B, we are showing students how to answer the grammar part with written form. And again, we have an example, and you have to be careful that students understand what they are learning. For vocabulary, we have some words that students have to match and correlate them with the descriptions that we have here. So as you can see, the exam respects the pattern. It has a content with building blocks addressing receptive skills through listening and reading, and language use through grammar and vocabulary according to the content studied in the period we are evaluating. But let's look then, it has a writing section for the productive skills. However, this exam has some areas of improvement. For example, in part number 1, it only says we have to circle. Listen to the conversation and circle true or false. This is good in the part that we are addressing receptive skills. But what happens with the reading section? You only say directions. Read the texts and answer the questions. But are you expecting long answers, short answer, complete answers? So in order to let the student know what we need to specify directions. For example, it says, who is going to be a doctor? Do you want a full sentence? Do you want them to provide the reason? And we don't have an example here. So that's an area of improvement. Remember, we specify what we expect. We should say, okay, read the following text and answer the questions. Make sure you provide full sentences and specify the reason of your response or justify your response. Like saying, who is going to be a doctor? So let's imagine the first guy will be the doctor, and we say, Lance is going to be a doctor because he wants to follow the example of his father. But if you don't tell the student what you are expecting, students cannot know how to write. And then if the student puts only the name or writes only the name, you will consider that incorrect, but your directions were not clear. In the grammar part, it says read the following sentences and circle the correct options. We're fine with the instructions. And in part B too, because we are providing an example. But what happens with the vocabulary? We don't need an example here because we have just to place the words. However, you have to make sure that if students don't understand, you can write an example on the board. And as you can see, number 6 doesn't have a space for writing. You have to double check your exams to check that there is everything in the right place and that students can think. Imagine a student thinks in number 6, oh, I don't need to answer this because there is no space, and he doesn't ask. Then whose responsibility is that? It's yours or the students? And finally, in the writing section, we have the directions. Using the examples of the reading section, write about your own plans. If you're not sure what to do, use your imagination. Right here, you have to be more specific, like Using examples from the reading section, write about your own plans. Includes what you have to do, what you need to do, and the results of that. You can think of study plans, family plans, vacation plans. Use your imagination to be more creative. But if you say only use your imagination and you don't give a framework of what you expect the student to write for you at an A2 plus level, it is a little bit more complicated. And remember, we are looking for students to integrate the vocabulary and grammar structures they have learned in the last unit with their previous knowledge to create a composition. So this is the second example with some areas of improvement.